Location: the forest. Hiccups was more than determined to prove to his entire village that he was not a harbinger for disaster. He moved steadily in the woods, determined to catch the monster he had shot down last night. To Hiccups, catching this monster would be a chance to prove to his father and everyone that he wasn't a screw-up that everyone believed he was. As he moved across the woods, the thought of dying came across his mind multiple times. He quickly shut it out. He wasn't going to die today, he believed. After all, if he had truly shot down the Night Fury, then the beast would be too weak to attack him. At least, this was what he believed. In no time, he discovered the Night Fury, laying down in defeat as tight ropes were wrapped around its body. Seeing this as his chance, Hiccups quickly took out his knife and prepared himself for the task of finally killing this monster. As he raised the knife up to the air, several questions went across his mind. Would people truly celebrate him after this win? Would he finally prove himself to his father? Would the dragons recognize him as a threat now? He would not know the answer to all these questions until he did what he had to do. He had to sink the knife in his hands into the Night Fury. However, he hesitated. Deep down, he knew that he didn't want to do this. After a while of struggling, he decided that he was going to release the Night Fury. He quickly released the monster, hoping in his heart that everything would turn out well. In several other universes, everything did turn out well, but in this one, a leaf ruined everything. A tiny leaf fell from the skies, landing on Hiccup's nose and causing him to let out a huge sneeze. As he sneezed, the knife he was holding fell out of his hands and landed on the tip of the Night Fury's wing. The dragon roared in pain, as the human it just thought was its savior heard him again. Before Hiccups could react, he was blasted by the huge ball of blue fire. The last thing Hiccups ever saw was bright light engulfing him. 6 months later. Location: Berk 1. The village of Berk was no longer the place Hiccups had once known. What had once been a small town filled with cautious optimism had become a shadow of itself, riddled with tension and fractured trust. The skies, once dotted with fire-breathing dragons, were now choked with smoke from pyres of hunted beasts. Stoick the Vast had changed. The death of his only son had cracked something deep within him. Something once noble, now twisted. Every morning, Stoick led raids into dragon territories. Every night he returned more ruthless, more bloodthirsty. There were whispers now, mutterings in corners, that the chief had lost his way. Some believed he was no longer leading with wisdom, but with rage. Some even dared to say he was unfit to lead, but no one dared speak it aloud to his face. They feared his grief more than his wrath. Among the quiet dissenters, Astrid stood alone. She did not speak of rebellion, but she trained harder than ever. She watched Stoick's eyes after every hunt and searched for any trace of the man she used to admire. She found none, and so she left. Without telling anyone, Astrid rode far from Berk in search of something different. Something that might explain Hiccup's final moments. Her journey led her deep into the forest where the stories claimed Hiccups had died. She found the ropes. She found the blackened scorch marks on the earth. The villagers had never been able to find Hiccup's body, but they had retrieved his destroyed clothes and boots. As Astrid looked at the burnt marks, she cursed under breath. Why had Hiccups been so careless with his life? Why did he go alone when he didn't have the proper experience? She quickly reminded herself that in this fight against the dragons, taking risks was necessary. However, Astrid didn't understand the necessity of this sort of risk, not when it led to the death of so many innocent people. There was something wrong with the system, and she could not just figure it all out. It was at this moment that she decided that she was ready to change the narrative, whatever it took. Location: the forest. Astrid journeyed further, although her sojourn seemed more difficult as days passed. Every time she encountered a dragon, it was a bloodthirsty monster that forced her into hiding. After about 5 encounters, she wondered if this step she was taking was truly worth it. And then it happened. She heard sticks break and turn sharply. Just as she expected, there was a dragon directly behind her, and it stared at her, deep in the eyes. His eyes met hers in silence. There was no roaring, no charging, no fire, just stillness. She had expected hatred. Instead, there was something else, something painfully human. Astrid did not move. Her hand hovered near her axe, but something kept it there. Her instincts screamed at her to strike, but instead, she sat. The night fury did not run. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk hours passed first, and Astrid had not left her spot. The night fury had also been consistent in staring at her, occasionally looking down at her pouch. At first, Astrid wondered if it was thinking of all the ways it could kill her. However, she soon realized that the Night Fury had been paying attention to the contents of her pouch. The pouch contained food, Astrid noted. What if the Fury was hungry? Cautiously, she reached into the pouch, earning a deeper stare from the Fury. It seemed threatening, but she did not let it dissuade her. With a deep breath, she pulled out food from her pouch and threw it to the dragon. To her surprise, the dragon consumed the food immediately, and for the first time smiled at her. It gestured in a pleading manner, a sign that it wanted more. With a chuckle, Astrid removed more food and handed it over the dragon. The more food the dragon ate, the more it smiled and became playful. In just 3 days, Astrid had become bonded to the dragon in a way she could not fully express. Her relationship with the dragon was so amazing because she had never felt so free before. Somehow she felt at peace doing this. Hiccups would have wanted this, maybe. The day she named the dragon Toothless, after his retractable teeth, she felt like it was definitely something Hiccups would have done. After some days of bonding with Toothless, Astrid realized that maybe the dragons weren't really as bad as the people of Berk were made to believe growing up. Just maybe, if the people of Berk were taught to peacefully coexist with the dragons, just as she had done with Toothless, then the world would actually be a safer place. But for her to put this theory to the test, she had to go back to Berk and tell her people. Her return to Berk was definitely more eventful than her moving out. This was because, to her greatest surprise and fright, Toothless had flown her all the way to Berk. It was quite a thrilling experience being taken by a dragon to wherever she wanted to go. And now, she was going to tell as many people as she could about it. Location: Berk. 3 days after Astrid's return, she had been stationed in a dragon fighting class with several others, like Fishlegs, Snotlout, Roughnut, and Toughnut. With Toothless's help, Astrid had been able to learn the art of subduing dragons, earning her the admiration of her peers. Eventually, she told them that she could tell them her secret, if only they promised that they could keep it to themselves. Of course they agreed. After all, it was Astrid. The next day, Astrid took her friends to meet Toothless, hoping that they would have a change of heart on seeing the dragon. As she expected at first, they were scared to their bones on seeing the dragon. However, Astrid quickly let Toothless carry her and fly around the sky, shocking them. As soon as Toothless dropped her on the ground, she noted that this and many more reasons were enough to convince them that truly the dragons were friendly. Fortunately for her, they bought it. On seeing her breakthrough, Astrid truly believed that she could change Berk's point of view. Now that she had convinced her friends, she could convince others. Soon, Stoick's rageful reign could end, and no one else would have to die like Hiccups did. Later that night, once again, Astrid left the town to go see Toothless. As she met it, she began to thank Toothless for being such a receptive dragon, and for showing her and her friends that truly, the dragons weren't truly the enemies. She believed that now the world could be a better place, and with that, Toothless warmed up to her and rested on her. And then, it happened. An object fell from Toothless's side, alerting Astrid. Surprised, she turned to pick it up, although Toothless tried to stop her. However, she got to it first. The moment she did, she realized what it was and dropped it in horror. She was holding the late Hiccup's belt buckle. But if this belongs to Hiccups, then it means Astrid could not fathom the next words that came into her mind. She turned to look at Toothless, tears in her eyes. Pointing the buckle at Toothless, she screamed, asking if Toothless was responsible for Hiccup's death. Toothless quickly understood what she was asking, but it could not answer. In fact, it turned away. Toothless's reaction, as heartbreaking as it was, sealed the deal for Astrid. At that juncture, she knew that Toothless was dangerous. She walked away, visibly shaken. Location: Berk. Upon Astrid's return, she discovered that Stoick's latest raid had gone terribly wrong. A new beast had been uncovered, something massive, something ancient. Red Death. Its wings blotted out the sun and its fury tore through entire cliffsides. Stoick saw it as the ultimate challenge. Astrid saw it as suicide. Still, he would not listen. Then she remembered. The sight of Hiccup's buckle in her hands. The scorch marks from the place Hiccups died. It was all to Mike, and so she broke her silence. In front of the village, she confessed everything. About Toothless, about the dragons, about Hiccups. She spoke of the day he died and how it was an accident, not a betrayal. The crowd listened in stunned silence. When she revealed that she had befriended the very dragon that killed Hiccups, Stoick did not speak. He simply walked away. But the seeds had been planted, and the winds of Berk were changing. Wanting revenge, Stoick gathered his warriors with a fury that made the earth seem to tremble. The discovery of the source of Hiccup's death had done something irreversible to him. He was no longer a father mourning a son. He was a man possessed by vengeance. To Astrid's horror, he had grabbed her and made sure she followed him on this battle. He threatened that now she would watch him kill the monsters that befriended his son. As the army of Berk sailed toward the volcanic nest of the Red Death, no one dared question him. The silence among the ranks was thick with dread, for each warrior knew they were walking into fire. Astrid's desperate pleas were also unheard. In a few minutes, they all wished they had listened. The Red Death was a creature beyond their imagining. Its wings blocked out the sun, its roar cracked the skies. It emerged from its molten nest with rage boiling in its bones. Stoick gave no orders, he simply charged. His war cry was the first sound to pierce the air, a scream soaked in years of pain. The battle began. The beast struck with fury. Warriors were burned alive in their armor. Ships shattered like splinters. Arrows broke against its scales. Stoick fought at the front, cutting down any smaller dragons that circled the beast. He looked to the sky seeking the larger one, and it found him. With a sweep of its massive tail, the Red Death sent Stoick flying through the air. His body slammed into a jagged rock formation at the edge of the battlefield. He did not rise. His axe lay beside him, buried halfway into the stone. The wind fell silent around his still form. Astrid saw everything. In that moment, her heart shattered. But there was no time for grief. The Red Death was still alive, and now it turned to destroy everything else. She had one choice. She turned and whistled into the clouds. And for a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then, there was a loud band as the night fury descended from the sky. Toothless descended without hesitation. It quickly glided to Astrid, who climbed on its back. She took a moment to smile at it. She missed it, and Toothless missed her too. Together they soared toward the monster. The battle raged behind them, but meant nothing now. This was between them and the storm. With precision, Toothless fired blast after blast at the Red Death's wings, while Astrid hurled her spears into its mouth and eyes. The beast shrieked. In its last desperate breath, it lunged. Toothless spiraled upward and let loose one final blast direct into its throat. The Red Death exploded in a wave of fire and bone. Astrid and Toothless had done it. They had defeated the Red Death. Location, Berk, weeks later. The village crowned Astrid as chieftain. She did not smile. She looked to the skies and swore to uphold the legacy of the two men who had changed everything. Under her rule, humans and dragons began again, not as enemies, but as kin. As she looked to the skies, she smiled as Toothless flew comfortably. This was the dawn of a new era, and she was leading it.